Hi everybody, welcome to this video. We are going to dive into Rahu, the north node of the moon, in a new sign of Pisces. Rahu is the ecliptic axis, the other side is Ketu. They're always moving backwards, and when they reach a certain point with the sun and the moon, it creates an eclipse. It's an interesting time for the nodes to shift, because we just had an eclipse a couple of days ago, and now the new eclipses are going to happen in this other sign. I'm gonna turn off that fan because I think the sound might be coming through. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about what this might mean, and I'm going to give some information on how this might affect every astrological sign based upon the ascendant sign. So, welcome. First of all, Rahu has been in Aries, and this is a Mars-ruled sign. Mars is an aggressive planet. Mars is associated with war. Mars is associated with force. Mars is associated with fire, and Mars gives us passion. Now, Rahu moves into Jupiter's sign of Pisces, and Rahu will always behave a bit like the lord of the sign that it's in. And so Rahu is making us feel very passionate, very fiery, and Rahu and Jupiter combination, as was taking place before, can actually bring about war. That might simply be in effect now, but Rahu and Jupiter is more peaceful, more peace-loving, and is way more spiritual and open-minded. And this is a more positive sign for Rahu as well, because there's something that happens called a Parivartana yoga. It's when one sign is in one planet's sign, and one planet is in the sign of another planet and vice versa. And this happens with the signs that planets own, and in Vedic astrology it also happens with the planets. It's called Mula Chakon, which means office. That's where the planet does its work. So Rahu's Mula Chakon, or office, is in Virgo. That's the opposite sign of Pisces. And Ketu's Mula Chakon is in Virgo. Pisces rather. And so there's a little switch that's taking place that allows for both of these planets to do their work a bit better, and they strengthen each other, and the nodes are more unified when they are in these signs. And so this is also in a way the beginning of a cycle, because the north node of the moon, Rahu, moves backwards, and so it reaches the end of the zodiac. That signifies it is beginning its cycle and moving around. So what does that mean? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for everyone? It depends on what your moon sign is and what your ascendant is, and we're going to talk mostly about the ascendant, though it's also relevant to your moon, and your sun is relevant as well. All of your planetary placements are relevant as well. So you'll want to see if you have anything in Sidereal Pisces. The planet that's in Sidereal Pisces is going to be getting the biggest impact of Rahu. And Rahu is also gazing or aspecting to the 5th and 9th houses from it. And that means the signs of the same element. So planets that are in Scorpio or in Cancer are also going to be affected, as well as any planets in Virgo. So, as well, I am going to do an astrology reading for anyone who sticks around. I can do a brief reading if you send your birth information. So let's go in reverse order, starting with Pisces. How is Rahu going to affect every sign of the zodiac? First of all, for the sign of Pisces, Rahu will be in your first house. And Rahu in the first house is affecting our body and our mind. The first house is our head and how we're perceiving reality, and it also relates very much to our body. So there's new information and new insight coming to our head. The first house is our identity. There might be changes taking place in our identity and how we perceive ourselves. Rahu in the first house can make us want to make very many changes for our body, to our body. Might mean getting a different haircut, different hairstyle, or maybe something more permanent like a tattoo. Rahu in the first house can really change and impact our sense of self and where we feel like we're going in our lives in really big ways. We might reinvent ourselves with Rahu in the first house, and it's important to do that in slow and calculated and careful ways. So Rahu for Aquarius ascendant or Aquarius moon, Rahu's in the second house, and the second house is about our finances and things that we own and possess. And the second house is also related to our health. It's known as a maraka, a killer, and it is connected to our speech. So the fact that it is a maraka means that this can mean some health challenges, and Rahu is a headless planet, a bodiless planet rather. It's a head that craves a lot. So because second house is things that come into the mouth, there can be a tendency to indulge in addictions or overeating for that Aquarius ascendant Rahu in second house. It's a time to be really careful. If you're in a committed relationship, this is a time of stress for the partner potentially as well, because the seventh house represents partners. Second house is 8 houses from the seventh. And so there's transformation associated with the 8th house that might come up. So for the next, we have a Capricorn ascendant that puts Rahu in the 3rd house. This is a great place for Rahu because Rahu is exalted in the 3rd sign of the zodiac, Gemini. And this is a time of really excelling in career, excelling in profits, excelling in your networks and friends. It's great for having a good social time. It's very positive for your relationships with your siblings and generally performing well in your world and in your life. Blessings to you too, the cosmic poet. Thank you. And so a Capricorn ascendant or Capricorn moon should have a great time with Rahu in that 3rd house and enjoy those benefits, and really know that when you put your effort in with a 3rd house transit, that's when you will reap the fruits of that, because 3rd house is all about our effort. All right, so the next would be the Sagittarius ascendant that puts Rahu in the 4th house. And the 4th house is the house of the home and the heart and the family. Traditional astrologers say this can be a stressful time for the mother. For you personally, this can be a time of shifts or changes in your home or some sort of challenges in your home situation. Perhaps it's unexpected finances going into your house or trouble with neighbors. This can also affect vehicles. 4th house is connected with vehicles, so perhaps it means getting a new vehicle or having to repair things in the vehicle. It's a time to really tend to your heart and be cautious with how you act, as your heart may be impacted. And with that care, that can be a positive transit that brings good things too. So the next would be a Scorpio ascendant, and that brings Rahu into the 5th house. The 5th house is our wisdom. It's more like our general knowledge. It's our creativity. So it can be a very creative time. It can be a very prospering time in that regard. It can mean speculative investments, and it's important to be careful with them because you might get these big grand ideas for creative projects or something to do with your resources with that 5th house transit. And with Rahu, we always want to balance our head wisdom with the body wisdom, because if we don't, that's when we get the disbalances. So for Scorpio ascendant, it can be a positive transit, though there will be some challenges, and you need to have a balanced intuition, because Rahu in the 5th house is going to make you use your head far more than you need to make the right decisions, because the right decisions are fully embodied decisions. They don't come from the head alone. Backwards is Libra Ascendant, and Libra Ascendant has Rahu in the 6th house. 6th house is a heavy house, but for Rahu, this is a great house. Rahu loves the 6th house because its office, again, is in the sign of Virgo, and Virgo is the 6th sign of the zodiac. And so this is a great time for health for the Libra Ascendant or the Libra Moon. It's a great time to be able to sort out any legal issues. It's a sign that legal issues that come up or that have been persistent can be something that you have victory within. And it's also a good time for generally getting things done and cleaning things out. Moving through a 6th house transit, especially if Rahu, can be like cleaning out your home or cleaning out your life in some way, cleaning out the innards to make way for the new. It's a great time to consider doing detoxes or consider doing something pretty radical for your health to make those bigger changes. Though overall, it is a more positive transit for the Libra Ascendant. For the Ascendant of Virgo, that will put Rahu in the 7th house. And this means some fire or transformation in your relationships. And in your sense of self, because that will put K2 in your 1st house, right? And when we see this Rahu in the 7th, it's the partner might be experiencing something, or you might be very sort of hungry for a partner. You might have this sudden deeper lust for a partner or desire for that partner come up, and the relationship might undergo some different changes. And it's also going to affect business. It's important to keep your wits about you in your business and not make any headstrong decisions, and in that way you'll find more balance. Moving to the next is Leo Ascendant or Leo Moon. Leo will have Rahu in its 8th house, and the 8th house is the house of transformation and hidden things. So Rahu, who is a tricky little planet, will bring about hidden problems. And these hidden problems can be issues that relate to sexuality. Sexuality is something that can be hidden from others. So it also can be addictions or habits, things that we hide from others. It can be an inner struggle, and the positives of this 8th house transit is that it is a movement on the inside into understanding your own psyche, understanding the realm of spirit, understanding psychological depth, understanding esoteric realms. And if we use this transit in that way, it can bring about really beautiful things, though it's definitely a time where we're going to have to tend to our inner world and work some things out there. So now we're gonna see the sign of, what did I just say the sign was? Cancer. Cancer puts Rahu in the 9th house. The 9th house is about travel, spirituality, religion, higher learning, teachers, the father. Rahu is in its Marnakarkasthana, or death signifying position, in the 9th house. This can bring about some trouble to the father, can bring about some feeling of rebelliousness, of not really jiving that well with authority figures. It can be a period of feeling a little bit more rebellious and a little bit more unsettled. But this can also be traveling and exploring. It can be going off on a trip to experience new knowledge. It can be beginning new studies. It can mean learning something new or getting a certain degree. Though you'll have to keep that rebelliousness in check to make sure that you are in that right relation with those authority figures and so on. All right, so the next will be Gemini. And Gemini has Rahu in the 10th house. And the 10th house is the house of career. And so this means moving up in career. It means excelling in your career. It can mean a change in your career. It might mean that there's a change in your general reputation in the world as well. If you're retired or you don't work, the 10th house represents your reputation, how other people see you as well. So there can be changes in that regard, changes in how you're perceived or how you meet the world and your image evolves. So there will be big changes in that regard, and there can also be some changes in the home with that transit as well. It can bring about a sort of, considering Ketu goes to the 4th house, a sort of restlessness at home, a sort of desire to move beyond your home. Or for somebody who's very comfortable with Ketu energy, it might mean like a reclusive period of like deep spiritual diving within your home. So then we have the sign of a Taurus ascendant is having Rahu in the 11th house. And this is also a great place for Rahu to be. Why? Because Rahu is connected with a sign of Aquarius. So that's 3 signs Rahu connects with: Aquarius, Gemini, and Virgo. And some astrologers say this is the greatest house for Rahu to be in. And the 11th house is of your profits and of your extended networks. So it's signifying growth in your networks or your networking ability. It's signifying more money coming in. For Taurus, this is a very important time to be putting yourself out there and to be considering how do you reach others and how do you make these bigger changes in your message or in reaching people, and how does that translate into making your money and making your living. So this is a very social and dynamic time for the Taurus ascendants, and it can be bringing about a lot of growth. The last ascendant or moon is Aries, and Aries has Rahu in the 12th house, and the 12th house is the house of spiritual liberation. It's the house of the bed. It's the house of foreign travel and foreign things in general. It's the house of psychological undoing. So all of these significations can be impacted. And when we say the bed, it also means the ones that you sleep with in the bed. So it's a house relating to partners as well. So the positives of this transit is an increased experience of spirituality and spiritual growth. It can be something that takes you to foreign places or allows you to make profits in foreign places. It can be something that might cause you to not be so careful with your resources and spend too much. So for the Aries, you need to be careful. Where is your energy going? Where is your attention going? Where is your money going? And make sure that you're not wasting any of these things or squandering on things that don't really matter to you in a deeper way. This can be a time of great spiritual growth, however, for the Aries, and using those positive aspects of this transit can make your life flourish in really unique and powerful ways. So that's all the ascendants. That is all of the ascendants. Anybody have any questions or some clarity in your own chart as well? Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching a lot. couple last things I can say is that these first, how do you divide that by 3? First 6 months of the next 18 months, or not 6, you can't do math apparently. What's 18 divided by 3? Oh, yeah, that's 6 months. I did get it right. So the next 6 months, Rahu is in this nakshatra of Revati. Revati is typically associated with endings and spirituality, and it's a friendly nakshatra. And so this is a really powerful time to be working on your spiritual growth and in putting your energy into that. And this is a very peaceful nakshatra, so it may signify that we're able to work towards some peace in the world despite everything that's taking place. And it also might mean that we are ending some cycles in order to begin cycles anew. So we're ending some karmic cycles. We're releasing and relinquishing energies from the past. And the sign of Pisces is 2 fish swimming in opposite directions, and it represents this choice. Do we choose the spiritual path, or do we choose the material path? The fish will always be moving in these opposite directions, and at any point we can make a different choice, and that will have different effects. So really important at this time to know what choice we're making, and to know that we will see the karmic returns from that. And sometimes the world doesn't give us this sense that there is karma because so much injustice rather happens, though we know karma in a more personal way in our lives, as when we're living in alignment with our values, positive things manifest for us, whereas when we don't, there are obstacles. And with some inner work, you can come to feel really clearly, when am I in alignment versus when I'm not. Leslie writes, that feels accurate. I'm Leo, Lagna, and Moon. So what you described for Rahu in the 9th was totally what I went through in the last 18 months. Interesting. So it was sort of that like rebelliousness and beginning new teachings or working, I don't know. What was accurate? I'm curious. Yeah, Rahu in the 9th. Some people can fear that position a lot. I experienced Rahu in my 12th house, but also with my moon over the past 18 months. And so in this period, that's when I went all the way around the world. I was like super traveling. So there's definitely that powerful travel energy to the 12th house transit. And it was also a time, though, of feeling sometimes very isolated. And with the moon, there was a lot of fear that can come up. Like when Rahu gets in touch with the moon, there's sort of like a mental obsession. But Rahu will bring obsession about anything it touches. So you may want to look in your chart and see, do I have planets in the sign of Pisces or in these water signs of Cancer and Scorpio? Because there can come to be an obsession with that planet and with its significations in your chart during this time. So be aware of that and note that. Like Rahu and Mars can make an obsession with aggression and enforcing your will on others. Rahu with Jupiter can make an obsession for knowledge, but sometimes Rahu misbehaves. There's a lot of factors that we can look at to see if is this planet doing well and behaving nicely, or is it being horrible. So Rahu with Jupiter can also mean a lack of respect for life and going against the sacred way. Rahu with Venus can make an obsession with pleasure and sexuality and art. And again, that can manifest in different ways depending on what house it's in, depending on what if those planets are well supported and if they're strong or if they're not. So Leslie says that when Rahu is in the 9th house, I started yoga therapist certification. Yep, totally the higher learning, that's the 9th house, and broke ties with some religious trauma. 8th and 2nd are both open houses for me. Yeah, that's the other thing about this Rahu in the 9th. I've seen some people who have that who were born into cults. So there is some connection there with getting into, it's about rebelling against authority, but a lot of times there's a really good reason for that. Though when there is trauma, there's a tendency that we continue to perpetuate that negative situation we were in out there onto the world. And so that's one way that astrology can show us that some of these incarnational circumstances, even after we clear them and we've dealt with them, they can be projected out, especially as they relate to the moon. So making sure that, okay, we recognize that we're in this moment and not in that again. Not saying that that's what's happening for you, but just noting in general that I've seen some people with that transit that move past their cult trauma, but then they started to feel like they were in a cult again when they weren't. Yeah. Okay. Wow, okay, that was a little longer than I expected. I always just keep going on and on, it seems. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for being here. If you're interested in astrology readings, I'm available for them. If you want to see how these transits or anything may impact your chart, we can dive in, and I'd be very happy to do that with you. My website is dantestarshine.com, and there you can find all of the information about the channeling and the astrology readings and the books that I've released. I'm working on more autobiographical human tales versus the channeled books that I've released that come directly from the Pleiadian Council. And if you're interested in that part of my work, I'm going to be doing the live stream channeling session tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. And you can check it out on YouTube. I'm on many different channels, YouTube, Instagram, and what have you. So, yeah, many blessings. You are so thorough, thank you. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I did that with yoga for sure. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I relate. Thank you, I'm feeling better since our reading. Oh, really happy to hear that, Brian. It was great to meet you too. Thank you all for watching and tuning in. And love, blessings, transformation, magic. Enjoy this. I experienced this as a relief already because I think that sign of Aries was really intense. And I'm having Rahu in my 11th house. And as I said, that's a great place for it to be. Though it's 12th from my moon, so I'm not fully celebrating. I'm in the moon time period, so watching out for that. But hey, we've got to work with the good things that we're shown and we're given. Love, blessings, hugs, radiant energy, and magic, and I'll see you soon.